stand-up comedians, for instance, get up on stage and they have a microphone and they talk about everything, whatever, just talking about life. And people come and flock in the audiences of thousands of people come and sit there and listen to this one person speaking as a guru. And it strikes me that in many ways our society isn't really that different from societies going back thousands and thousands of years. In past societies, they had people that were called gurus, spiritual leaders, whose words would be listened to as they would discuss life. And we have the same thing now, but we call it something else. We'll call it stand-up comedy, or we'll call it psychology, or we'll call it a motivational new age speaker, somebody standing up and discussing with you how to view life. And it's very similar to what the psychologists try to say. Oh, well, you should approach life this way, you should approach life that way. That's not really different from religious gurus from past millennia who have done the same thing. We just call it something else. We don't call them religious gurus necessarily today. We call them psychologists or comedians. One thing that sometimes gets on my nerves, people try to give you advice about, how to, or spiritual advice, how to spiritually approach life and approach society and dealings with other people, and you should do this and you should do that, and how you should feel about your own behaviors, and you shouldn't react this way and you shouldn't react that way, and you shouldn't be angry because anger is a negative thing. This is what bugs me. People say things like, oh, well, you should try to control your anger. And I can see that sociologically, and for a lot of people, especially for people who are irrational, the majority of people are irrational, and they'll get angry and they'll react irrationally out of anger. So then what we do is try to suppress this, because it would be violent and destructive in society to allow people to go around expressing their anger. So we say, okay, well, you should try not to be angry. You should try to accept things, be more accepting of this is the way the world is, and therefore don't get angry about it. This often strikes me as bullshit. When people say, oh, well, anger, negative emotions are unhealthy for you, so what you should do is get rid of your negative emotions by denying them. And I react negatively to this. I think there's validity to reacting negatively to things that are negative. And if you lash out in anger against something that's wrong, that doesn't make you a crazy person. This is what we have in our society, is people say, well, anybody lashing out in anger must be a crazy person, and what you have to do is make yourself sane by making yourself not angry. And because anger is insanity, so sanity must be on anger. And that's why we have medications designed to pacify people. Okay, so you're angry? Okay, well, we have medications for you. And if this medication isn't working, don't worry. They got another one coming out next week. We'll try a different prescription on you so you won't be angry. Whatever kind of pill it is that you have to pop down your mouth to try to make yourself stop being angry, that's what they're going to prescribe to you. When what we should be doing is recognizing the legitimacy of anger where it is legitimate, and recognizing where anger isn't legitimate. And if we could come to recognize objectively where anger is legitimate and where it isn't legitimate, then we could resolve it that way. Because when people start to realizing, those people who have illegitimate anger, if they were able to come to the realization of how and why their anger is illegitimate, then they could abandon the anger, because then they would realize it was just a mirage, that they were, fighting against a windmill that wasn't what they thought it was, and then they can just let go of it. But if the anger is legitimate, to say, oh, well, you shouldn't be angry, and here, take some pills so you won't be angry, because we'll put these chemicals in your brain that will stop you from being angry, without resolving the issues, the real issues that are legitimately making you angry, that's fucking bullshit. And I see that from psychology. I see that from spiritual gurus trying to tell you, and you see it from the medical profession, saying, oh, well, buy our new pharmaceutical drugs and you can stop being angry. Well, how about you fucking listen to the legitimate issues that I'm trying to raise here, and give some legitimate attention to these significant issues that deserve to be resolved legitimately, instead of telling me that, oh, well, I must be crazy because I'm angry. I think there is a legitimacy to anger when it is legitimate. There is an appropriateness to anger in certain situations, and that's why it exists. That's why it exists. It's built into our nature to be angry when something is wrong. So we live in a fucking society that says, oh no, being angry is wrong. That's just the way that a fucking society that wants to get away with a lot of bullshit allows itself to go on getting away with bullshit by saying, oh, well, anybody who objects, anybody who gets angry is in the wrong. We're not in the wrong for what we're doing. You're in the wrong for being angry. Take a pill and you'll stop being angry, and then you can get on the bandwagon and you can be in consensus with the majority, and then you won't be Then you won't have a conflict. You won't be conflicted. Well, there's a point of being conflicted. So that's my point. So when people start saying, oh, well, no, you shouldn't be angry because then there's something wrong with you, then that means you're crazy. I say, no, maybe that means I'm not crazy. Maybe if I sat around not being angry about things that were wrong, maybe that would be a real definition of being crazy. Maybe accepting things that are wrong is the real craziness. And getting angry at things is a way of rejecting them. So our society doesn't approve of anger in any form, because anger is an expression of rejection, and rejection means independent thinking and skepticism. Rejection is the result of skepticism and independent thinking, and the herd mentality cannot tolerate skepticism and independent thinking, so the herd mentality says anger is a mental illness and must be medicated. And you think, okay, well, I'm going to take these prescribed medications so I can stop being angry, because anger is a negative emotion, and negative emotions are unhealthy and can hurt you and lead to your destruction. I say no. Yes, the negative emotions can lead to your destruction, but it's not because the reason the anger leads to destruction is because the anger isn't resolved, and that the issues that there are to legitimately be angry about don't get resolved. That's what's killing you. That's really what's killing you. When people are dying from negative or health issues from the negative emotions going through them, for instance, they may be getting cancer, or heart attacks, high blood pressure, from negative emotions. It's not because of the negative emotions. It's because the shit that's going on that's giving them the negative emotions isn't stopping. And if that shit would stop, most of the negative emotions would stop. And the health would happen. And my microphone's screwing up again, so I'm going to stop.